Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Super Breakfast Friends Club.
The anniversary.
It is. We've been doing this for a year now.
That's disgusting, and I want to barf.
I mean, technically for us, it's been more than a year.
Yeah, do we count that, though?
We used to record this a good 3 weeks in advance.
When we were bright-eyed and ambitious.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Internet.
Thank you for sticking with us for this long.
Unless you haven't. In which case, I'm confused as to how you're hearing this.
Thank you for showing up now, if you just showed up now. That's also great. Welcome. There's a whole year of content for you to go back through.
And we hope to see you at the 2-year anniversary.
Right, Marcus, Brittany, Beth.
Not a single person named Beth has ever listened to us.
If your name is Beth and you've listened to us, please let us know for our metrics.
Our Beth metrics.
We need to know where we sit on the Beth index. Are all the Beths listening to true crime podcasts? Or are some of them listening to us too? Because I know they're all listening to true crime.
True crime skews heavily Beth.
It's the best.
I hate it. Put it back in your mouth.
It came out, it tumbled out, and now it's on the plate, and someone has to eat it. Let's play the opening.
Pac-Man. Pac-Man.
We're back.
We're
back to Pac-Man.
The pack is back.
Wacko Paco.
Wacko Paco is backo. So I have known for quite some time, since before we even recorded the first episode, that this show got a fair amount of retooling for its second season. And I have kept that information from you because I was excited for the day when you could discover it without knowing beforehand.
You told me about one of the things.
Oh, did I?
But you did not tell me about Super-Pac.
Okay, so I told you about PJ?
You did.
Okay. What was the context? Did I just tell you that they had a Poochie?
No. You told me that the second season was very different, and they introduced his weird cousin PJ.
Okay. Yeah, and PJ is this show's Poochie. I mean, they're both Poochies, really, aren't they?
Do they never come back? Do they go and die on their way to their home planet?
Well, I mean, the season ends. This is the last season of the show.
Well, there's still episodes after this.
That's true. Was Poochie only in one episode? I feel like Poochie was around.
You.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. It's been a while since I watched that episode. For anyone who doesn't know what we're referring to, there's an episode of The Simpsons where the viewership of the Itchy and Scratchy show is beginning to dwindle. So to try and revitalize it, they create a new character called Poochie. And he is just kind of an edgy, in-your-face character who takes over the show, and nobody likes him. So they quickly write him out and promise that he'll never be back.
People should just assume that any reference we make on this show is either from The Simpsons or Futurama.
Yeah, a lot of them are. I don't know, though. Sometimes I have to edit in clips from Dexter's Lab, and I think we make a wider range of references than we realize we do.
Well, then I would like to narrow that.
Okay.
This is exclusively a Simpsons reference podcast.
Okay, so now the focus of this podcast is cartoons based on video games and The Simpsons.
Perfect. This is the niche I
This
occupy.
is exclusively a show about cartoons based on video games viewed through the nostalgic lens of 90s Simpsons episodes.
I mean, yeah. Perfect.
That's us. It's the only show where you can get that. Literally. No one else is doing that.
Nobody else would be dumb enough to do that.
Why would they? So we get a new... let's talk about this new opening sequence that we got.
Okay.
Because it's the same song, but the animation has been updated to include Super-Pac and PJ.
And that's about it.
That's about it. But there is one other thing I would like to point out, because this baffled me somewhat. Apparently, Season 1 got complaints about being too violent.
I mean, they spend an awful lot of time threatening to chomp his bones.
So, to combat that, the chomping in Season 2 now happens off-screen. I don't know if you picked up on this, but in the opening, they no longer chomp the ghosts on screen, they do it off-screen. And in the episode itself, we saw no chomping.
Well, actually, you're right.
Yeah. Every other episode we've watched up until now has had a lot of chomping. Some might say too much chomping, even.
There have been on-screen deaths in the Pac-Man universe.
Yeah, usually at least 5 an episode. I would say the ghosts usually get chomped twice each per episode.
Yeah, that sounds like a conservative estimate.
But none of them get chomped even once here. So,
thanks, censorship.
this is the first episode of Season 2, and it aired Saturday, September 17th, 1983 on ABC. Now, I don't know if you remember this, Mel, but when we talked about the first episode a year ago, I talked a bit about how this show aired as part of the Pac-Man Little Rascals Richie Rich show.
I vaguely remember that.
Well, that's no longer the case.
We're at a full pack happy hour?
Not exactly. No, this season aired instead as part of the Pac-Man Rubik the Amazing Cube hour. Have you ever heard of Rubik the Amazing Cube before?
I don't think so. I think I'm mixing it up with something that actually exists.
Oh, this exists. You may be able to guess from the title. It is a show based on a Rubik's Cube.
Yes, I figured that part out.
Let me just get you the opening, because you will not expect this.
Oh!
Immediate, huh?
Why do I feel like I've seen this traipsing about in my nightmares?
On a mysterious night, Ruby Q appeared, bringing happiness. Ruby Q has changed everything in our lives. He's colorful, magical.
What?
Ruby,
What?
he's our friend. Ruby, the amazing Q.
Hello, my name is Rubik.
So it was stolen by a highwayman who is somehow in modern day 80s America.
Yeah, he's like riding a horse, a horse and carriage in the modern day. He's apparently an evil magician.
Oh, see, that explains it.
Yeah, so that's why he has a horse and carriage.
Like all magicians do.
Yeah, and the Rubik's Cube, whenever it's solved, becomes... I mean, it grows like a blue Yoda head
Yeah.
and legs.
Yeah. That looks like something I would whip together in Photoshop because I'm a dumb person.
Can we stretch the premise of this show to include a Rubik's Cube as a game? So that we can watch Rubik the Amazing Cube.
This is your podcast.
It's
That's
our,
something
it's
you're
our
gonna have to-
podcast. Hey, don't do that.
You have creative control, though, so you're gonna have to take that up with your god.
My god doesn't have any rules. So anyway, after that small diversion, in between season 1 and 2 of Pac-Man, the games Super Pac-Man and Pac Jr. were released, which I think is why we got these two specific characters added.
That would make sense.
But Super Pac-Man wasn't a game about a Pac-Man superhero. It's Super Pac-Man in the same way that, like, Mario Brothers' sequel was Super Mario Brothers.
I'm sorry, are you trying to tell me that the Mario Brothers aren't superheroes?
I mean, when they made Super Mario Brothers, they didn't introduce a second set of Mario Brothers who were superheroes, is what I'm saying.
So they are superheroes.
Imagine if they did, though. Imagine if Super Mario Brothers was literally different characters from Mario Brothers, but who still had the same name and existed in the same universe, but just wore capes.
What if Wario and Waluigi are those two, but they got caught in the time flux and they came out all wrong? Because history tried to erase them. Nintendo said, no, we want our original boys back. This is too much. These superheroes are too much. Get rid of them.
They were put in the character shredder and it didn't work. It didn't take.
Yeah. They were slowly dipping them into some acid to dissolve them.
They put them in the Who Framed Roger Rabbit dip.
Yeah.
But they didn't dip them all the way. They dipped them a little bit.
Well, it turns out it was the wrong dip. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle goo.
Oh, it was the ooze.
The ooze.
I don't know. I kind of like. I'm thinking about it, and now I kind of like the idea that they're slightly melted. Maybe they, maybe they put them in the dip. There was like a dip ooze concentrate that got accidentally mixed. So they like.
What if they dipped them in the guck?
Hello, well, good segue back to the show, but we're not at the guck yet. No, we're. Let's talk about the cold opening, the Pac-Mania thing.
Do it.
These used to be in the middle of the show, but now they've moved them to the beginning. I don't know why.
So that we get it out of the way as quickly as possible.
I guess so, but it also means that Super-Pac is introduced before he's introduced. You know?
Yeah.
Because he's just here. We haven't been introduced to him yet, but he's just here hanging out over the ocean for some reason. And I love the absurdity of this. Because there are so many... Like, okay, this is just for the little gag, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to be, cohesive or make any sense. But to me, it adds to the comedy that it doesn't make any sense. Because he's just hanging out over the ocean. Fair enough. That would be a nice place to hang out. But then a ship approaches him. And the captain of the ship says he has an entire boatload of people who need to get to an exhibit of the world's largest items.
Yeah.
And like, okay, why is this Super-Pac's fault? or problem? Like, you're in a boat. Why are you approaching him?
Well, he's there. He might as well.
I guess. Are they like really behind schedule? It isn't. I don't know. It isn't explained. I know that's not. That, like I said, that's something I think makes it funnier. So Super-Pac pushes the ship, and then the next time we see the ship, it's now suddenly inside the world's largest bottle, and the captain is angry about it.
And presumably dies in there.
Yeah. You're relying on Super-Pac to push your ship because it can't get there under its own power for unexplained reasons. And then he pushes it onto land. Not only onto land, but in through the mouth of a bottle. Somehow.
Your entire ship has compressed. Your crewmates are dead.
I'd be mad too.
Yeah, because now there's a bunch of people ooze on the bottom deck of your ship from everyone getting compressed through the neck of a bottle.
Well, we don't know exactly how much you can compress a Pac person and then spring back to the same shape. Maybe they're like those little tennis balls, you know? The foam tennis balls.
I guess. I mean, ghosts can get completely eaten until they're nothing but eyeballs.
That's true. Do you think that parents complained about the violence because some children in America had eaten some of their classmates, leaving only the eyeballs?
Yeah, I think I remember reading about that.
Oh, God. There's a real big problem in 1982. But
It was a wild time.
luckily, 1983 didn't actually show it happening on screen, so children could no longer imitate the behavior.
Right.
They didn't understand what to do anymore.
Your children are safe. So now it's just veiled threats of getting your bones chomped that you have to deal with.
Super-Pac is played by Lorenzo Music.
That's a cool name.
It's a very familiar name for me. Lorenzo Music is the one and true voice of Garfield. He played Garfield, I think, right from the very beginning of Garfield being animated up until his death, which I believe was in the 2000s somewhere.
Garfield's death?
Garfield's death, yeah. There's a new guy. Did you not know they replaced him?
With a new cat?
Yeah, you know the vet lady that John always dates?
Uh-huh.
He took Garfield in to the vet because he wasn't responding as usual, and she knew that John would fall apart, so she replaced Garfield with an identical cat.
Oh, okay, that
So
makes sense.
John doesn't
And then
know.
sent Garfield off to a farm where he'll be happy.
John can't know that Garfield has been replaced. He will not. Garfield minus Garfield will become canon at that point.
John is already barely connected to reality. He's so unhinged.
He is. Oh, that's the best thing about Garfield.
Though I feel like even if you told him to his face, he wouldn't believe you.
No, of course not. He wouldn't be able to even process the sentence. His brain would reject it, and he would just continue as though you'd said nothing. But Lorenzo Music also played Venkman in the animated Ghostbusters show. He played Tummy in Gummy Bears. Those are the main things I know him for. It's funny because he played Bill Murray's character in animated Ghostbusters, and then Bill Murray played Garfield in live-action Garfield, so it's like they traded.
Coincidence?
It can't
I
be.
think not.
I do not accept Bill Murray as Garfield, though. If it's not Lorenzo Music, it's not Garfield.
I agree.
He was perfect. He had that like lazy, disinterested tone in everything, and that's not, it's not a knock on his acting because obviously he's not doing that for Super-Pac. So he's a good actor. He just recognized that was the right way to play Garfield, and he was absolutely right.
And like it didn't destroy him the way that Bill Murray being Garfield did.
Yeah.
Remember when he died in Zombieland?
Yeah, I do. I do remember that. That's the only thing I remember about that movie, actually.
Pretty much same.
I didn't realize that Lorenzo Music was also a writer. Apparently, he worked on the Mary Tyler Moore Show and co-created the Bob Newhart Show.
Okay.
I don't know how you create something called the Bob Newhart Show when you're not Bob Newhart. But apparently he did it.
Well, that's because it was created by Bob Newhart.
Oh, and co-created by... I don't know. I feel like the only people who should get a co-create credit on the Bob Newhart Show are Mr. and Mrs. Newhart.
You're thinking too much about it.
I sure am. No, I think a lot of these are just like... I think this is the period where these were basically sitcoms, but they thought that they needed to put the actor's name in the title to make people watch it. Because that's what the Dick Van Dyke Show basically was, right?
I mean, that's what marketing is.
Yeah, they don't do it anymore, though. Like
this book is exactly like this other book that you've heard about, and then you read it, and it's not.
That's true. But imagine, like, if you went to see Iron Man in the theaters, and it was just called the Robert Downey Jr. show. But it was still Iron Man. It's still exactly Iron Man, but it's called the Robert Downey Jr. movie.
Yeah.
That's
I can see that happening.
That's what it's like. They don't really do that so much anymore, I feel like. Unless they do. I don't watch TV. Maybe they're doing
I
it.
don't get so mad about it.
I wouldn't know what they're doing. What are they doing behind my back, Mel? On the TV.
On cable TV? I don't know. I haven't paid for cable in years.
Yeah, well, Netflix is going to become cable soon enough, so now they're trying to stop you using it outside your house.
I mean, I don't leave my house anyway. Where am I going to use it? My bathroom is still in the house, so the joke's on them.
I guess so. Here's Super-Pac is the first segment of this show. That's the name of it.
I wonder who it's about.
There's no credit given for writing on the title card here, but I presume it's Jeffrey Scott again. He has written every episode of Pac-Man as far as I know. We talked about him.
That's because this show wasn't written. It just is.
It's honestly, if he wrote every single episode, that's pretty impressive.
Is it?
None of the other shows we've looked at have had that. All the other shows we've looked at have had a whole team of writers.
Yeah, but is it impressive to just write a lot?
I mean, some would say so. I think I've told you before about how I once didn't get a job because they made me do it for the interview. They made me do a written exam, and then when they came back and looked at it, they didn't read anything I had written. They just looked at how much I'd written, and then they were like, "You really think that's good enough? You haven't even filled all the boxes." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't need to. I've written everything I had to say."
That sounds like some dumb people.
Yeah, and then they said, "Would you like us to come back in half an hour and give you some more time to think about it?" And I said, "No, that's okay, thanks. I'll just leave."
I think I know everything about this job already.
Yeah.
Thank you for saving me the time of having to file my 2 weeks.
Anyway, the ghost monsters have a tank now.
Yeah, it starts off real sudden, real heavy artillery.
They want us to know that season 2 is not messing around. They can't
There's
chomp.
no violence in this show.
They can't chomp anymore, but they can sure as hell ride a tank through the town shooting things.
Yeah. And later we learn build a giant robot to create massive property damage.
Well, see, these are things that children can't imitate.
Right.
You could chase your peers down the street and chomp them, but you can't drive a tank through the town and build a giant robot unless you're really rich.
Yeah.
I guess they're not worried about what the rich kids do.
You can't stop the rich kids.
Pac-Man is driving along in his little Pac car, talking about how nice it is that the ghost monsters aren't around.
While behind them on the road.
Very obviously, the entire time, the tank that we have just seen is in front of him on the road, with the ghost monsters leaning out the windows. And he's looking right at them the whole time, and he can definitely see them, because when he leans out the window to ask the car to get out the way, he calls them by name.
Yeah, at first I thought it was just like an accident, but they do the whole goofy double take where he's like, ghost monsters.
Yeah, also, did you notice that it seems to cut him off? He goes, ghost monsters! Oh!
That's right!
And I'm pretty sure it was, because I remember in the first season episodes we've watched, his catchphrase almost was, oh no! And there's a couple times in this episode where it seems like he had read that in the booth, but then they cut it out.
They didn't like the whole performance. They needed the money shot.
But the ghost monsters are in the tank and they're loading the guck hole with guck.
The guck hole.
The guck hole.
Let's load the guck hole.
And I like that we're just expected to know what guck is. Like,
Yeah.
we all have a guck hole, and we all put guck in our guck hole.
They do this all the time in this show, though, Mel. Remember the ghost dog?
Yeah, but that's not quite as egregious as a guck hole.
I feel like every episode of this show, they just introduce us to one thing. that we're just supposed to accept as normal, and then it goes away. Like within the first 5 minutes of the episode, it's gone.
Yeah, but within the first 5 minutes of the episode, they showed us their guck hole, Mike.
They did. I can't believe they were allowed to show that on a Saturday morning.
They showed an entire ghost getting crammed into a guck hole.
They don't even call it the guck cannon. They actually say guck hole. And I didn't know what they were talking about when they first brought it up.
No, until we saw the guck go into the guck hole, and then they shot guck.
So they opened the giant can with guck written on the side. G-U-K, it's spelled.
Guck.
Yeah, they cram all the guck in the guck hole and start shooting it all over the town. It's a brown substance. So
They're peppering the town with a brown substance fired from their guck hole.
yeah. So
Please do not read into this, children.
they cram Blinky into the guck hole with the guck, and they fire him at Pac-Man's car. And now covered in guck, Pac-Man is trapped. And the ghost monsters, demand to know the location of the Power Pellet Forest.
Yeah, Pac-Man, by the way, this whole time has been fleeing like a baby because despite living in a world tormented by ghost monsters, he doesn't have any power pellets on him.
Yeah, despite the fact that this is his entire life. He is the security guard of the Pac Pellet Forest. Not that we've ever really seen him doing this job. Seems like
We saw him sitting in a chair and watching TV at the power pellet plant or whatever.
That's true. We keep being told that he's the guardian of the Power Pellet Forest, but he always just kind of happens upon the ghost monster's plots by luck. It's just happenstance that he happens to be there.
Yep.
And he really gives up the ghost. Oh, God, gives up the ghost. He really gives up the ghost like immediately in this episode. Because they have him. He's like trapped in his car by all the guck that's all over it. And he says,
Nothing in this world could save us now.
he's done. He's out. He's resigned himself and his wife to death.
He really does seem like something's just missing from Pac-Man this season.
Well,
It's just a season of him getting taken advantage of by a bunch of different assholes.
it's so funny because, yeah, I was thinking the same thing because in season 1, he was always kind of a schlub, but he was always on top of things, you know?
Mhm.
He was the Bugs Bunny of the show. The ghost monsters would try and outsmart him, but he would always outfox them at every turn. And now this episode is just a whole episode of him being shown up by other characters.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's how the season continues.
I hope so.
He's been demoted to the secondary character of his own show.
Yeah, because Super-Pac is the new Bugs Bunny, because he's the one that can break physics with a wormhole that moves around.
Yeah, he's completely overpowered. He takes care of everything this episode.
Debs, please nerf. Super-Pac is overpowered.
Pac-Man is resigned to death, but Super-Pac appears through a hole in reality, lands on his face. Oh no, he says he made a 3-point landing.
2 feet in my face.
I thought that was decently funny. He's quite a bit taller than everyone else.
Yeah, because they drew those long-ass legs on him.
He does have long-ass legs, that's true. And he's kind of an idiot blowhard. That's basically his personality. But he's an idiot, but he's not an unpleasant one. He's nice.
I do love that they chose to make him an idiot instead of like a Superman.
Yeah. I thought a lot of his dialogue was pretty funny. I don't know how much of that was the writing or how much of that is Lorenzo Music's delivery of the writing. But I laughed a lot at what he was saying.
You can hit me, you can call me names, you can steal my galoshes, but no one smudges my super suit!
One of my favorite parts, and it's the dumbest joke, but he just goes,
And now, for the old 1, 2.
and then pulls out a number 1 and a number 2 and just throws them at the guys.
I hated it. It was so dumb.
It really got me. So everyone cheers for Super-Pac after he dispatches the ghosts, and he autographs Pac-Man's head. So Pepper invites Super-Pac over for dinner.
Yeah, because Super-Pac just swoops in and steals Pac-Man's girl.
Yeah, she leaves with him. She leaves on his arm. Once they're in the house, I thought Super-Pac was being very sweet and nice about the house, which kind of undermines the plot they seem to be going for. Because they want us to be... Because Pac-Man is, like, kind of annoyed by Super-Pac. Everyone else loves him, but Pac-Man's kind of annoyed by him. But Super-Pac is too nice, so the audience aren't on board with how Pac-Man's feeling.
I don't know that I would say he was nice.
No? He was being very complimentary about everything.
Yeah, I don't know how sincere it was, or how it counterbalances the fact that he ate half of their house.
Well, he fixed it afterwards.
I guess, because otherwise they would sue him for property damage.
I don't know. To me, it came across that he's too dumb to be insincere about this stuff. He thinks they have a picture of him over the mantle, but it's a mirror. I actually kind of think that having a mirror over the mantle seems weirder than having a picture of Super-Pac, but either would be strange.
I don't think a mirror is that weird.
No? Just hang a mirror over your fireplace?
Yeah, sure, why not?
I mean, I guess. If you're someone...
Before mounted televisions.
Yeah, gotta look at something. He plays ball with Chomp Chomp and throws the ball into space. He bonds with Pac Baby a little bit. And they confirmed again that Pac Baby is a boy. I keep forgetting that. I am constantly convinced that Pac Baby is a girl.
I want to talk about this bonding with Pac Baby part.
Okay.
So, Super-Pac picks up Pac Baby, and he's like playfully throwing him up in the air, which we all know where this is about to go.
Yeah.
He throws him through a convenient skylight, and Pac Baby just flies up into the air. And at this point, Pac-Man zooms out of the room, and I'm thinking, oh, he's running outside so he can go catch the baby that's flying away. But he just doesn't come back.
Wait, what?
Pac-Man just doesn't come back.
I missed that.
Pac Baby does not go right back through the skylight. Pac Baby lands on a lounge chair that's outside and then bounces back into the house. And this whole time, Pac-Man is nowhere to be seen.
So do we just not see Pac-Man again until dinner's ready?
Yeah.
All right, that's strange. Good thing you noticed that, because I sure didn't pick up on it.
Because I'm thinking, how is this everyman gonna save his baby from flying into space? And the answer is that he doesn't.
Maybe he was too busy off commandeering a spacecraft. So dinner is ready, and we basically get, this is the exact same from the Kirby anime. It's the exact scene where they make a celebratory dinner for Kirby, and then Kirby inhales it all.
Mm-hmm.
Except Super-Pac also inhales half the building.
Yeah. I did think it was weird that when Pepper invites Super-Pac over, Super-Pac insists that he only eats the best Pac steaks. But then she serves him some kind of soup or cereal or something.
Is it Pac pellets? Power pellets or whatever?
Yeah.
I have some stuff to say about the world building, but it was mostly in the second segment. So.
I guess we just couldn't get the same sucking scene if we had a big steak instead of a soup spoon.
Pac steak. What's that even made from?
Pac
people? Yeah, it has to be, right? Meanwhile, at Mesmeron Town...
lest we forget about Mesmeron, the best character.
He is absolutely the best character.
He makes no sense.
Once again squandered in this episode. We haven't seen an episode yet that really uses Mesmeron to his potential. I hope there is one, but who knows?
The final episode where he becomes too powerful.
I think the final episode is a Thanksgiving special.
Where he becomes too powerful.
So the ghosts are building something. A lot of scaffolding. I was very confused about it.
It definitely looked like they were building a high-rise.
I thought, like, did Mesmeron's castle get destroyed? Are they rebuilding it? Is it like, did the first season end with his castle being destroyed? But that's giving the show too much credit. There's no continuity in Pac-Man. So Mesmeron says he's going to come with them this time because they keep screwing up. And that excited me. I thought we might get to see Mesmeron fight the Pacs. Hand to hand, one-on-one. But it turns out they've built a giant robot ghost. It doesn't really look like a ghost.
No, I thought it was a gorilla.
Yeah, no, they say it's a robot ghost. That's the only reason I would have called it that, because it doesn't look at all like one.
Mm-mm.
Back in Pac-Land, Super-Pac has rebuilt the house. Pac-Man doesn't like him. I do.
I don't.
I think I like Super-Pac more than I like Pac-Man at this point.
Oh, I definitely like him better than Pac-Man, but that's not saying a whole lot.
Okay. And then the giant ghost robot shows up and starts munching the town. And I have questions.
Such as?
Well, Mesmeron said he was coming, right? And presumably he's inside the ghost robot.
He is.
But the ghost robot doesn't look any bigger than he is.
It's about the same size.
Yeah.
Because at the end, when Super-Pac eats the ghost robot, and it shows everybody inside, it pulls the mask off. Mesmeron is about the size of it.
Okay, so it is just like a big Iron Man suit for him.
Basically.
He's wearing his robot ghost skin suit.
The worst Iron Man mock.
Iron Man Mark -7. We've made this suit that's a downgrade from the original. It's the budget version.
Sorry.
So Pac-Man can't deal with the robot, so kind of question his credentials as guardian of the Pac Forest at this point.
He's just a security guard. I think we're all giving him too much credit.
I think so, but doesn't it feel like he's obsolete now? Doesn't it feel like Super-Pac has escalated things beyond Pac-Man's meager capabilities?
This entire episode is dedicated to emasculating Pac-Man.
Pac-Man is now the Commissioner Gordon of his own series.
Pac-Man is now just Pac.
Things have escalated. The Batman has showed up, and now supervillains exist, and he can't handle it anymore.
He's just one regular Pac. What's he supposed to do against a giant robot?
And Super-Pac eats a super power pellet. That's not just a regular power pellet he eats.
What if Pac-Man ate one of those? Would he essentially be Super Pac-Man?
I don't know. Do you think that would be addressed in a future episode? Because I don't.
No, I think it should be, but will it? Absolutely not.
I love that the robot turns purple when he eats his power pellet.
Everyone inside and the robot as well.
But after chomping the robot, Super-Pac just can't help himself and he keeps eating the whole city.
Yeah, he does about as much property damage as the robot.
That's true, yeah. So Pac-Man sends him back through his crazy dimension hole back home. But before the segment ends, he sticks his head back through so that we know he can come back and whenever he wants.
I was very upset by the fact that he stuck his head back through, because my headcanon was that once Pac-Man tricked him into going back through his magical wormhole, Super Pac-Man was just going through the depths of space and eating everything. And one day, millennia from now, on a span of time that humans can't even conceive of, Super-Pac would eat the universe.
Oh, eventually he'd find his way to whatever it is that's at the center of the universe.
Super-Pac is a cosmic horror.
Anyway, segment 2. Hey, hey, it's PJ.
Excuse me, there were 3 hays.
Oh, were there?
There were 3.
Oh, my mistake. Hey, 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 it's PJ, I guess. That's how I would title it. Hey, 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 it's PJ, I guess. Pac-Man is singing a song about spring cleaning, but he seems to just be playing in a pile of trash. Right?
Yeah, we do find out that the dog is a more efficient cleaner than he is.
Because all we see is just a pile of papers on the ground, and Pac-Man's just under it, and it's moving. So it seems like he's just lying down on his back with all these papers on top of him and singing a song.
Spring cleaning, spring cleaning. Nothing so fine as wiping the grime and spring cleaning.
To be fair, that's kind of how I clean. That's the existential dread phase of spring cleaning.
Well, at least it was a happy song. But yeah, Chomp Chomp is sweeping up with a broom, and he's doing much better at cleaning than Pac-Man is. This made me realize this is the first of all the episodes we've watched. This is the first time that Chomp Chomp has appeared in both segments.
Oh, you're right.
Usually he's only in the second one. Sourpuss is still only in the second one, but
I got so excited. I thought we were going to have another Tom and Jerry Chomp Chomp and Sourpuss segment, and then PJ shows up.
Sourpuss, yeah, he only makes one brief attempt on Chomp Chomp's life here. Right?
Yeah.
He gets Chomp Chomp to chew on a balloon and tries to pump it up. There were a few like this in some other ones, but this is one of the ones where I'm like, what the hell is he trying to do? Like, what's the goal here?
Not only what is the goal, but the way that it backfires is that Pac-Man comes over all sweaty and tired, and he's like, let me sit on the most inconvenient thing possible.
Yeah.
And he sits on a bike pump.
Yep, and that pumps up Sourpuss. And the reason it pumps up Sourpuss is because while Chomp Chomp was chewing on this balloon for no reason, Sourpuss tried pumping it up and nothing happened. So when Chomp Chomp got bored and left, Sourpuss started chewing the balloon himself in frustration. And that's a classic, like, that's in the Don't Do What Wile E. Coyote Does book of tips.
Mm-hmm.
Of Acme trap safety.
Acme trap safety. But if the only reason you're foiled is because Pac-Man is clearly trying to insert a bike pump up his butt.
Hey, don't let's not knock what Pac-Man does to relax.
I'm not knocking it, I'm just pointing it out. Hey everybody, look over here.
Look what Pac-Man's doing.
In the privacy of his own home.
Yeah. Speaking of the privacy of his own home, this is where his cousin PJ is suddenly here on a motorbike.
Why is it his cousin? He looks like a nephew or something.
That would make more sense.
Years younger.
Yeah, because he's in high school and Pac-Man's clearly a grown man.
He's a middle-aged man.
He is Pac Jr., right? They do call him Pac Jr. several times.
Yeah, that's what PJ stands for.
Yeah. In the games, Pac Jr. is Pac-Man's son, but I guess since they had already established Pac Baby as the only child in the family, they didn't want to just suddenly go, here's his other son. Even though, now that I think about it, I feel like they could have easily just been like, I've come back from boarding school because I don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, but then that raises questions about the relationship of Pac-Man and Pepper and how he got her pregnant at like 15 to have a high school age child.
That's true. We don't know exactly how old they are. We don't know how Pac people age.
That's true.
They could be like 50. So yes, PJ has showed up. He looks ridiculous, by the way.
Ridiculously cool.
I don't know how you felt about his hair. I had some issues. The sideburns.
Yeah.
This is a character designed by somebody who thought that sideburns were the height of coolness.
We've established that some of these video game cartoons are at least 30 years in the past.
Yes.
Like, seeing PJ brought me back to Q-Bert.
I think when we talked about this one, I think I said it feels more like it was made in like the 60s or 70s than the 80s.
Yes.
And this is another example of that, really. PJ is played by Daryl Hickman, who was a child actor from the 1930s and 40s. He has been in a ton of things, none of which I'm familiar with. He apparently appeared in Grapes of Wrath and Leave Her to Heaven, which are some of the things he's best known for. When I was reading about him, the most interesting thing that stood out to me was that he retired from acting at some point in the 50s to become a Passionist monk.
Okay.
And then he returned to acting 1 month later.
Like PJ quitting school and immediately going back.
Yeah. So he's dropped out of high school and is moving in with Pac-Man. Why isn't he moving in with his parents? Pac-Man's aunt and uncle, presumably? I don't know.
They just have a rocky relationship because PJ's too cool.
It would definitely make more sense for this to be a nephew. And also, not only from the perspective of like the age difference between them, but also just because we're so used to that as a trope in cartoons.
Yeah.
Like whenever they want to introduce a young version of a character, it's always a nephew. Always a nephew. Scrappy, the Duck triplets. I think Mickey has a pair of nephews.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Imagine if the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had been going for like 3 seasons before Will Smith was introduced.
It's actually a show about Uncle Phil.
That would be so funny.
Uncle Phil and his wacky kids.
Like if you
Carlton.
think, like now that I think about it, that like it really is. The Fresh Prince is a show that started when the Poochie was introduced. That's exactly what it is.
Only true Poochie.
Yeah. And I should preface this by saying, I'm not knocking the Fresh Prince. It's one of my favorite sitcoms of all time.
It's very, very good.
So in the next scene, we get to see Pepper interacting with PJ, and she is. I don't know if this is a mismatch between what was written and what was animated, but she is looking super pissed off about him being there.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't say anything about it. And then the first time she says a line, it's clear that she's like not pissed off about him being there.
Well, she seemed a little annoyed when he first took all of the food out of the fridge.
She's annoyed before. She's annoyed when he's walking up to the fridge. But then he takes all the food.
That's a mood.
He takes all the food out, and then he compliments her cooking, even though he's not eaten anything that looks like it's been cooked.
And that's all it takes to win over Pepper.
He just pops some olives in his mouth. That's something that really stood out to me throughout this entire episode, is that up until now, every episode we've watched, it's been, I feel like not even just implied, it's been like almost outright stated that the only food that exists in this world is Pac pellets.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden there's just like food of all kinds all over the place. There's a pineapple here, there's a jar of olives. We're going to see a bunch of cakes later on.
Oh yeah, you're right. I guess it's implied it's made out of pellets.
Maybe. Well, they're making a pineapple out of Pac pellets.
Yeah, it's
power pellets, not Pac pellets.
It's a power apple.
That just sounds like a soda.
They have that too. That's Power Apple Aid.
What's next? They wonder where the baby is, and then they hear the motorbike running. And we know what's going on.
I just like that midway through the animation, when they're speeding down the road, a pacifier just appears in Pac Baby's mouth.
Oh, really? I didn't spot that. I did spot Pac-Man sitting on his own lap during the cafeteria scene later, but I didn't see that one. So for the safety of the baby, Pepper says they need to convince him to go back to school so that he's too busy to take their 1-year-old child out on a motorbike.
Right, because when you have a delinquent teen, the easiest thing to do is convince them to go back to high school.
So Pac-Man goes to speak to him, and he says...
Okay, two can play at this cool game.
And then follows up on that in no way.
So when Pac-Man goes to talk to them, PJ and Pac Baby are playing pool.
Yep.
And Chomp Chomp is keeping score, and we can clearly see that Pac Baby has won a game.
Good. Good for him.
PJ lost to an infant.
Yeah, is he really this cool? Maybe he'd let him win. Oh, why am I defending PJ? Like, I don't like PJ. He's annoying.
Yeah.
Super-Pac was way better. Bring him back.
I'm sure he'll be back eventually. He's in the opening. I guess they both are.
Yeah, they'll both be back. A lot. Much to my joy/chagrin. So, Pac-Man makes a deal with PJ.
The worst wager ever.
He says that he's going to take PJ to school, and if PJ really hates school, then he can live in their garage for a year. Yeah, that's a bad deal. If you took me to school under the pretense of, like, you're going to get exactly what you want if you don't like it here.
You're going to get a year of free rent if you don't like this place that you hate.
Yeah, if you don't like this place that you've already quit once. I don't think you're going to win this bet. But we may be surprised about what happens.
No one is surprised.
I was surprised. Even when it happened, I was surprised. Anyway, they get to the school, and all the girls at school immediately fall for PJ for no discernible reason.
They're all standing in a line waiting to fall for PJ.
Do you think that there are just no age-appropriate boys in Pac-Land?
Maybe. Like, there are other packs in the background. The pack-round, if you will.
Yeah.
But, like, one of them is a giant, muscle-bound idiot bully.
Yeah.
And the other one is a drama kid.
That's true. And all the others are teachers.
Yeah.
When the girls are fawning over him, PJ does a Snoopy dance. It's a very definite Snoopy dance that he's doing.
That's where I learned all my best dance moves.
I like the one where you like lean your whole body over to the right and flop your arms down and then do the same thing to the left.
Yeah.
And then repeat.
That's how I get all of my dates. Roll up into the club and bust that out. You know how many phone numbers I've gotten? Don't give me your phone number. I won't call you.
Yeah, but you're cheating because you count each digit of the phone number as a separate phone number. So
it's a number and a phone number. I'm not going to have this argument again.
So Professor Pac-Stein. What do we think about Professor Pac-Stein?
Well, he exists.
Yeah, quite a choice.
They went the easy route and just made him Einstein as a Pac-Man.
Yeah, he's blue. He has Einstein's hair and a big human nose.
And a big German accent.
And German accent. I was thinking about this. I think so far as like incidental Pac character designs, nothing for me has surpassed the mayor from the first episode.
I don't even remember what he looks like.
He was just a little blue guy. I liked him. I don't like this.
No.
There's way too much going on Pac-Stein here. I guess it's because it's a caricature of a real person. But he has such a detailed face. He almost looks like a boglin.
Yeah. They could have done without the nose.
Yeah. Or at least a
We
little
still
button nose
know.
like all the other Pacs have.
Yeah.
I love that as Professor Pac-Stein is teaching, Pac-Man is gazing at him with this, like, expression of just pure bliss. Like he has a crush on the teacher.
Pac-Man has a crush on physics.
This is where we begin a trend in this segment, where PJ yells something out in class, and then Pac-Man shushes him, and then Pac-Man's the one who gets in trouble. But when he's accused of being the one who did it, he, like, admits to it, even though it wasn't him.
Yeah. He's like, well, I guess I did technically just make a noise. And then whoever it is like, well, that makes you guilty of a completely different noise.
Yeah, and then he gets various forms of punishment. This time,
Yeah.
Professor Pac-Stein uses a seesaw to catapult Pac-Man into the ceiling as punishment. If your school is doing this to you, leave the school. Don't go to that school anymore.
If your physics teacher is punishing you for making sound waves with your mouth by firing you into the ceiling, you might have a class action lawsuit on your hands.
Yeah, like, is this supposed to convince PJ to go to school? Come to school,
It
PJ.
did.
They use capital punishment.
They'll hurt your uncle right in front of you. Oh, sorry, your cousin.
Your cousin, yeah. I know uncle makes more sense, but we've got to keep the correct familial relationship here.
Because everyone in school says to Pac-Man, aren't you a little old to be in high school?
Yeah. It's a bit weird that he's sitting in on all these classes. I don't know how I would have felt at high school if there was just this adult man with a child who was just coming to class and sitting there. That's more normal when you're at college level, I think. But high school?
Yeah, because college, that's available for all ages. High
Yeah.
school has the cutoff.
Yeah. High school is literally a prison for the young. High school is just a place that you are sent to keep you out of trouble while your parents at work. That's the whole point of it.
Did you do your mandatory 4-year prison sentence?
Please step forward for re-education.
Please step onto the teeter-totter for re-education.
Stay in school, kids. So they go to drama class, which PJ immediately starts critiquing.
Right. I don't think he even knows who Shakespeare is.
No. And then he forces Pac-Man to play Juliet in their own rendition of Romeo and Juliet.
So, watching this, I was like, this is an interesting way to get PJ interested in school. Like, maybe he finds out he's a big drama kid. No, he just ad-libs his lines, and then the girls immediately fall in love with him and they leave.
Yeah, every girl in the room just runs to him, including the girl who apparently is the load-bearing strut of the scenery. So the scenery falls down with Pac-Man in it because he was Juliet on the balcony. Doing that falsetto he was doing sounded painful.
Yeah.
I hope he had some tea after that for his throat.
Romeo Pac? Oh, Romeo Pac! Wherefore art thou, Romeo Pac?
Like, are you blind, Juliet? I'm right here, babe. Come and get me.
Some warm honey tea.
Yeah. And now it's gym class. This is the part I thought of all the classes, this was the least interesting.
I thought the most interesting part was that PJ insinuated Pac-Man was a swinger.
Did he? I did not notice that. What did he say?
Something like,
You never told me what a swinger you really are.
I was like, oh, okay. Pac-Man and Pepper are into some things.
Well, that's not confirmed.
I think it
It's
is.
just suspected at this point. What?
And you know what? No shame.
I just I was gonna say, like, most of the pack people we see are men, and I feel like all of the miscellaneous pack women we've seen have been teenagers, but maybe that's why they have to be swingers, because Pepper's the only game in town.
Maybe.
But yeah, I didn't really take in the gym teacher all that much. Pac-Man goes on the rings, the dangling rings from the ceiling. Did you have to do this at high school?
No.
No, we didn't have the rings at my high school. We had ropes.
Yeah, we had ropes and like other less difficult gymnasium things for teenagers who don't give a shit about PE.
Yeah, I don't think I ever made it up the rope very far. I wasn't good at the rope. But the like horse thing, I don't know what it's called. The gymnastic thing where it's like a thing.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah, I was okay at that.
By high school, there is no way I would have even been able to do a pull-up. So if you're trying to get me to carry my own body weight on those rings, you're wasting all of our time.
I think, though, you really just have to, like, grip the ring and dangle.
Am I sporting?
Is this sport? Coach, can you help me down?
Can you help me dangle, coach?
So now it's cafeteria time. Like, I didn't even really take in how the ring thing went bad. It just went bad. I know that much.
He got all tangled up in it somehow.
Oh, there you
PJ
go.
was sassy.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So in the cafeteria, Pac-Man says that it's his treat, so PJ takes 1,000,000 cakes. I
Would
kind
you
of
say he took 40 cakes?
No, because that would be terrible. That would be as many as 4 10s. Yeah, I expected Pac-Man to be like, oh no, he took so many, but he didn't seem to mind. He was just like, yeah, okay, you can have that many cakes. I'm down.
Right. By this point, he's so beaten down by his life situation.
But again, like, it wasn't Power Pellets at the cafeteria. They had fruits, they had cakes. There were a bunch
And
of
all
pears.
they wanted was the cake.
Yeah. They sit at a table with a buff stranger who seems to be annoyed that they sat with him. But they don't seem to have noticed he's there.
They're having a conversation and he's just sitting there going to town on his food.
He is eating really loudly. And again, like, he already looks annoyed, and the fact that he's eating so loudly really seems like he's like, listen, I was sitting here on my own. I wanted to be sitting here on my own. You have just sat with me. I don't know you. Just, please go away.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's eating Power Pellets. I think he's the one who is. He just has a bowl of what looks like Power Pellets.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I thought it was the gym teacher at first.
Yes, he does look similar. But this is clearly a buff student. And, like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he just kind of starts bullying them. I guess once he's had enough of them cutting into his me time.
I guess. Because really all Pac-Man does is acknowledge that he exists.
Yeah, he finally acknowledges that he's there, and the guy just loses it. I've been there.
Me too. Pretty much every day.
Please stop perceiving me.
If somebody catches me in the small amount of time that I am between my bed and my car, I get so angry.
Everyone, the pack principal shows up, of course. I knew before it was even said that this was the pack principal. It had to be, right?
Because he got coated in food as soon as he walked through the door.
Not only, like, I knew that was going to be his name. I knew that was his role.
Yeah.
So I had already written the Pac Principal shows up before Pac-Man said it's the Pac Principal. Because that's just how, we noticed it in the first episode, but that's just how this works. You just take a real life thing and put Pac at the beginning and you're done.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the fact that Romeo is Romeo Pac.
Was it Romeo Pac?
It sure was.
It's not even like Pacquiao or...
It's Romeo Pac. Because otherwise, the reference is too subtle.
Oh, man. Did they say what Juliet was? I didn't pay attention.
I don't think so.
Okay. We're just supposed to know. We're all supposed to be educated enough to know what Pac-Man is if we're old enough to be watching the Pac-Man show, the very violent Pac-Man show.
No, they toned it down this season.
Oh, this is the PG-13 version. So the Pac Principal shows up and blames Pac-Man for starting the fight in the cafeteria. Even though he didn't, but he admits to it anyway.
Mhm. My favorite part was that he got thrown out of high school and the Pac principal basically just told him to go back to his job because he's an old man.
Now get out of here and chase some ghost monsters like you get paid to.
Yeah, he is just a middle-aged man hanging around the high school, starting
That's not
fights in the
weird.
cafeteria. I guess even if he didn't do any of the things he was accused of, he was still doing something wrong the entire episode.
Yeah.
So he assumes that he failed in convincing PJ to go back to high school. For some reason, though, PJ has decided to go back to school for no reason.
Yeah, because somehow Pac-Man convinced him that learning is fun, even though PJ was just the class clown the entire time.
What's
A
funny...
role that he clearly played his entire high school career.
Yeah, what's funny is that it's implied that PJ has decided to go back to high school because he had fun. But presumably the reason he had fun is that he spent all day fucking with his cousin.
Yeah.
Who won't be
watching
there.
his cousin get beat up.
and like, Pac-Man's not going to be there if he goes back to high school. He literally got kicked out. Anyway.
That's the end.
Yeah, PJ invites all the Pac teens to a party at Pac-Man's house. Pac-Man's Pac house. The end. The Pac end. What was your opinion?
It was stupid and I loved it.
I liked the Super-Pac segment. The PJ segment less so.
Yeah. I especially hated the PJ segment because it interrupted a sourpuss and chomp chomp segment.
That's true. All the season 1 episodes we looked at, it was very... segment 1 was a Mesmeron plot, and segment 2 was just Pac family doing stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked into it, and that formula does seem to still exist. There are only 8 episodes in season 2 altogether. 4 of them are like season 1 episodes and don't have Super-Pac or PJ in. And the other 4 follow this format, where it's a Super-Pac segment followed by a PJ segment.
Ugh.
Yeah, so anytime we come back to this show and we start with a Super-Pac segment, you know that PJ's coming.
Yeah, just turn off the TV after the first segment.
This PJ segment was very dull, and also the first segment that we've watched so far of the entire show that doesn't have the ghost monsters in at all.
That's true, but they're referenced constantly.
They are, because that's what PJ shouted out in the science class, right?
He says it a couple times, like when Pac-Man first goes to try and talk him into this very good wager, and PJ's like,
School, yuck. Gag me with a ghost monster, man.
That's
is his
right.
actual line.
Oh my god. I guess I blocked that line. Gag me with a ghost monster? It doesn't even make sense.
No!
They just wanted to take Gag Me with a Spoon and then insert a Pac-Man thing in it.
I mean, that's the formula for this entire show.
I guess it
where
is.
they ham-fistedly cram Pac or Ghost Monster into everything.
Yeah.
Or Chomp.
Yep, that's true. Oh, power pellet. Oh, Pac-Man.
That's what you call good world building.
We haven't even watched the other Pac-Man show yet.
It'll never top this.
You don't think?
Watching this is like coming home.
The good old Pac style cooking that Pac Mom used to make.
That Pac Mom used to chomp. Ghost Monster.
I do. I do love this show. There is something about it that just makes me want to see more of it. I'm sad that there are only like 20 episodes or whatever it is there are.
I'm not surprised, but I'm sad.
Yeah, there is at least one more recurring character that we haven't seen.
We haven't seen?
Yes. There is actually a nephew character. We talked about how it's weird that PJ isn't a nephew character, but there is a nephew character, but it's a nephew of the Ghost Monsters.
Okay.
And he's in a couple episodes. So we'll come back at some point and look at him. I think his name is Dinky. So it's not like they weren't on the nephew train. It's just that they botched it this time.
Just they didn't want to imply that Pac-Man had brothers and sisters.
Yeah, do you think that's what it is? Do you think they were like conscious of the fact that it implies that Pac-Man has siblings?
That's the first thing that came to mind. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. We can imply he has children, but not siblings or parents.
Correct.
I guess that is a thing. Because, I mean, Disney do so much to try and make you not think about the fact that Donald Duck has a sister.
Yeah. It messes with our canon.
Like, the Duck triplets do live with him, but they don't really want you to think about why that is. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Was there no legacy?
Are you kidding me? You think there was a legacy of this?
To the super very good Super-Pac PJ Power Hour?
As far as I know, Super-Pac has never been made a real Pac-Man character, and PJ is just an existing Pac-Man character who's been retooled into a cousin instead of a son, so... And it seems like Namco don't own half these characters anymore anyway. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks for coming down this trip down memory lane.
Thanks for sticking with us for an entire year, you lunatics.
Unless you didn't.
Yeah, if you're not listening to this, how dare you?
If you only just joined us, how dare you?
No, if you only just joined us, we love you. Please consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/SuperBreakfastFriendsClub, where you can find the things that I cut out of this episode because they were too saucy for iTunes.
Because they were too stupid.
Because we used the word piss too much.
Because we talked about diapers for some reason.
Are those things that we just said all true? Maybe you could find out if you donate to the Patreon. You could also donate to our coffee at coffee.com/SuperBreakfastFriendsClub. That's the one that nobody's donated to. Would you like to be the first?
I was just gonna say it.
Find us on Twitter at SBreakfastFC. Join us next... Well, maybe I shouldn't give a time frame. Join us next time. Bye.
Bye. You like what you see?